Welcome back to the TrainCare facility. As it's Autism Acceptance Month, I wanted to make a video discussing my special interests and hyperfixations as an autistic person. There's kind of a misconception about autism that we're all super clever or really good at doing certain things when that's not actually the case. I touched on this very briefly in my original Autism Acceptance video from a couple of years back, which you can go watch if you like. I'll put the link on screen now. But I think part of why that stereotype exists is because many autistic people like myself have special subjects and interests, and these can range from academic pursuits like maths or music to what some would consider less valuable interests like sports or our favourite books or TV shows. The best way I can explain it is that whereas a neurotypical person might be able to just take a casual interest in something they like, in my experience I've never really been able to do that. I basically become like a sponge, soaking up every little detail or opinion or fact or bit of trivia that exists about the thing that I like. And this is an experience I bet a lot of other autistic people watching this will be able to relate to. And so while it may appear that we're exceptionally clever or naturally gifted at certain things, it would be more accurate to say we're just obsessed, or to put it more euphemistically, perhaps you could say we're very dedicated. Now I'm going to go over as many of my own special interests as I can think of, and I'm sure there'll be some I've missed, but this is more meant to be just an overview rather than anything comprehensive, so here goes. If you're a regular viewer of this channel, then it should come as no surprise that one of my biggest ones is Doctor Who. I can name off the top of my head all of the different companions and the actors who played them, as well as the Doctor. Something which I occasionally will do as a party trick is to ask someone to name any series and episode number from Doctor Who, and I'll be able to tell them the title of that episode. Usually they're not that impressed because it's just weird and nerdy, but I love watching and reading reviews of particular Doctor Who episodes I'm hyperfixating on at any given time, and in fact it was watching old videos from Mr. TARDIS back in the day that first got me into doing YouTube, because I found I had my own thoughts and opinions and wanted to get involved in the discussion. I wouldn't recommend going back and watching my old videos though, they're really bad. Another of my biggest interests is Formula 1 and motor racing. I'm also a big fan of Formula E and the British Touring Car Championship. I did actually once attempt to start a motorsport channel on YouTube, which didn't go very well. But yeah, I'm particularly fascinated with the history of Formula 1 through the different decades. I can name every world champion going back to the inaugural season in 1950, and also tell you a bit of trivia about who was doing well and what was happening in the sport in any given year. My knowledge of the late 1990s is particularly extensive, and I've recently been hyperfixating on the 1999 season, so you can ask me about any race from that year and I'll be able to tell you loads of stuff. One of my more morbid interests is man-made disasters, so stuff like plane crashes and incidents involving nuclear power plants and so on. I watch a lot of videos on YouTube from creators like Plainly Difficult, Fascinating Horror, Disaster Breakdown. Basically, if you're into that sort of content, then you'll know what I'm talking about. I'm also pretty into my programming. I actually wrote my own piece of software in Java to do all the bookkeeping for my reselling business on eBay. I guess reselling is also one of my special subjects, and I like to watch a lot of other content creators who do reselling for a living. Having that level of dedication is definitely useful when it's a pursuit that you're trying to make income off of. It's interesting though, because hyperfixation can be a mixed blessing, because you can learn a lot about something like, say, programming really quickly, but it's also possible to get burnt out on something quickly if you're not careful, in my experience. I had that happen before when I tried to teach myself to speak German, and I still know a little, ich weiß nur ein bisschen, but without someone to practice or keep me motivated, I eventually just lost my focus. An example of a time when hyperfixation really worked to my advantage was when I did my driving test, where I eventually got my license, because the massive amount of people learning to drive with COVID meant that getting lessons with instructors was really difficult. So basically I just made driving my special interest, and I watched a whole bunch of mock driving tests and other driving instructor videos on YouTube just to make sure I knew everything I needed to for the test, and that really helped. I still occasionally watch mock driving tests now. Other than that, I'm quite into my trains. Yeah, original, I know. This is another one that shouldn't come as any great surprise given the theming of this channel. I travel on the train quite regularly, and I find that so long as the train's not too busy, it's a place where I can focus and do writing or work on scripts for YouTube. But I do like learning about railway history and about all of the different locomotives and so on, though I'm maybe not as knowledgeable about that as with some of my other special interests. Something which I was massively into for a while, but which again I think I got a little burnt out on, was Rubik's Cubes and puzzle solving. I have a few different 3x3 cubes as well as a 2x2 and a few other different ones, and I find that solving them also works as a good stimming activity. I've thought about maybe going to a competition one day, but as of yet I've not done so. Maybe when I have a bit more money I will. So I think that's most of my special interests covered, or at least my main ones. I hope you found this video informative, or if you are on the spectrum yourself, that you've enjoyed hearing about someone else's experience. If you would like to support me so I can maybe get to a speed cubing competition sometime, then you can head over to my eBay store Colt Coven, where I sell books, media and other nerdy things. Figured I'd get the plug in there since I already mentioned it earlier. But if not, that's okay, so long as you remember that we're all valid and we're all in this together.